so I'm about to call the judge out.
Maria, really quick, I'm sorry.
Huh?
Arnold just sent me an email of, and he just sent you another email too. It's another exhibit that the CP just provided.
Okay, well, let me start the hearing and then I'll go print it out.
Okay.
Good afternoon. This is call number 2006-04205. In the interest of Juliana Alvarez, please raise your right hands to be sworn. Mother on by phone?
Yes, she is, Your Honor.
All right. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right, ma'am, please state your name and your relationship to the child.
My name is Mary Perez, and I'm the mother to Julian Alvarez.
Sir, your name and your relationship to the child.
Yes, sir. My name is Nettie Alvarez. My relationship to the child is that I'm his father.
Okay, and for the state.
Marcella Turner.
All right, and we have an unagreed CSRP, is that correct? We're having a hearing. Do we have any stipulations?
Yes, we do, Your Honor. The parties have agreed that the mother, Ms. Perez, is ordered to cover medical and dental insurance through her employer with a cash medical reimbursement amount in the amount of $120 for the medical support and $15 for the dental support, both of those to begin on October 1st of 2020.
All right. And what are the issues?
The child support amount and the judgment amount, the confirmation of the judgment amount.
Rearage?
Yes,
Arrearage?
that's correct. Yes.
All right, let's proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. At this time, the state would ask that the court take judicial notice of the prior court order signed on May 1st of 2012, where Mr. Alvarez was ordered to pay $410 each month beginning May 1st of 2012.
All right, and are we seeking an increase or a decrease?
An increase, Your Honor.
All right.
At this time, the state would like to call Mr. Alvarez to the stand. Mr. Alvarez, where do you currently work?
I do freelance work. I basically I don't have a full-time employment. I just do contract work for Aztec Industries.
Okay, let me pause. Let me pause really quick. The two issues that I read into the order, the medical support and the dental support amount, were both of those amounts your agreement to pay to reimburse Ms. Perez?
Yes, ma'am. That is correct.
Okay, and no one forced you to make that agreement, correct?
That is correct. No one forced me
Are
to
you
make that
asking this
agreement.
court? Are you asking this court to approve that portion of the agreement?
Yes, ma'am.
Now going back to where you're working right now. So you state that you're a freelance worker.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and how long have you done that?
I've done that, I believe, 5 to 7 years now.
Okay. And so do you currently have a contract right now that you're working through?
It is not a contract, it's on a as needed basis.
Okay. And so how much do you bring in each month doing that?
It varies depending on the amount of work. Is like I said, the only thing that I have to prove that is my 1099s, but it varies month to month.
Okay, so how much does it vary from? What's the range?
I don't know it exactly, but it's between $2,000 and $3,000. I believe that's what it comes out, and that's including any cost that I incur for expenses, either traveling or anything that it requires me to perform my work.
Okay, so how are you paid? Are you paid weekly, daily, a month? How does that work?
As I submit an invoice and they pay me whenever I'm done with the work.
So when was the last invoice that you submitted?
Man, the last invoice that I submitted was like 2 weeks ago, and they haven't paid me for it yet.
Okay, so how much was that invoice submitted for? How much do they owe you?
That invoice was for $2,000.
Okay, and how long had you been doing the work that you submitted this invoice for? Was that for a month's work of work or a day or what?
No, that was for like 2 to 3 weeks, 2.5 weeks.
So 2.5 weeks and you submitted the invoice for, what was the amount again?
$2,000.
Okay. And what type of work do you do exactly?
I basically do consulting. Anything that they need me to do, I represent Aztec Industries on whatever it is that they need me to do, primarily engineer work.
Okay, so you're a consulting firm, or you do consulting work for engineers, or give me a little bit more detail about what your job entails.
So I do consulting work for different companies, mainly as an engineer. They'll ask me, hey, can you look at this? Because we have this project, can you help us make sure that it runs fine? Whatever it is that they need. You know, a lot of times it's just making sure that the project and the processes run smooth.
Okay, are you an engineer by trade?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, did you go to school for that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so you've pretty much been doing that type of work all this since you've gotten out of school, or how long have you been doing engineering type work?
Since I got out of school.
Okay, when did you get?
Let me ask a question, Ms. Turner. Are we, the old child support from 2006,
No, it's from 2012.
2012, and how much was it?
$410.
Okay. All right. Go ahead.
So what year did you graduate from school with this degree?
2011.
And was that a Bachelor of Arts or Bachelor of Science? Is that a BA or a BS?
It's a BS, Bachelor of Science.
Okay. So what's the name of the company that you recently submitted the invoice for?
Aztec Industries.
Okay. And so that company is owned by who?
By a group of investors.
And you have no ownership in that company?
I do have ownership on the company.
So what type of, how much of a percentage of ownership? Who else owns that company with you?
That's information I cannot disclose. It's proprietary to the company.
Okay, so let me get this straight. You just testified that you work for a company and you submitted an invoice to a company that you work for. That's what you just stated, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. But yet you have no knowledge as to how much you typically make from that particular company. It just varies. But you have an ownership interest in it, right?
I have an ownership interest. That is correct. I don't know exactly because it varies. I'm not the only owner, and I'm not the only individual that makes decisions in this company.
Okay, so how
Okay,
many
let me ask
owners?
a question, Ms. Turner. Mr. Neary, you said that you had a 1099, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, did you submit that to the Attorney General's office?
Yes.
Do they have a copy of it?
Yes, sir.
He did. He did, Your Honor. It's listed as State's Exhibit A. You should have a copy in front of you.
Has everybody seen that copy?
I don't know if Ms. Perez has actually seen that copy, as I was not negotiating with them prior to this hearing. Ms. Perez, have you had an opportunity to view the 1099?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Let
Do
me
you have
send
any
it to-
objection to me looking at his 1099?
No, I have no objection to be looking at it, sir.
All right, let me see. There's several sheets of paper here. All right. This indicates that he made $57,390 for 2019. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right.
Now, outside of that 1099 that you provided, Mr. Alvarez, do you have any other income?
From time to time, I do Uber. I haven't done it this year, but last year I did it sometimes. But it was a small amount. Maybe I think it was like $2,000-3,000
Okay.
for the whole year.
Did you file your taxes for 2019?
I have not yet filed my taxes because of this whole COVID thing, but I do plan to.
Oh, okay. How soon do you plan to file your taxes?
If I need to, I can file my taxes within a couple of days. I mean,
Okay.
I've been putting it off because I didn't want to risk going to a CPA or, anything like that, but I can do it. I'm sure I can get them done soon if I need to.
Okay. And what's the address associated with the company that you just listed, Aztec?
Everything that I get is it goes to a PO box, and that's PO box 1031, Humboldt, Texas 77347.
Okay. And where do you live? Do you live in a home or an apartment?
I live in a home.
Do you rent or own that home?
I own the home.
And how much is your mortgage each month?
$1,100 a month.
And do you own any cars?
I do not own any cars.
Okay. Are you leasing any cars right now, or do you have a car note?
I do not have a car note.
So how do you get around? How do you get to and from work?
I borrow the car that the company provides sometimes.
So you're a contractor for a company and they provide you cars to get to work.
If I need it, yes, I can ask for it.
Okay. Are you able to use that car for other things outside of work, or is it just for work?
It's primarily for work, but I must admit that I've used it myself outside of work when I'm not supposed to.
Well, what type of car is it?
It's a pickup truck.
And do you own any real property or anything of that nature?
Just my home.
Let me ask Ms. Turner, what amount is asking to adjust this to?
I'm sorry?
What amount is the AG asking that he pay child support here for?
Well, honestly, Your Honor, the Office of the Attorney General doesn't have, I have the guideline amount based off of what his 1099 dictates the guideline amount would be. However, the state's position is that perhaps Mr. Alvarez is not providing all of his income to this court and simply trying to seek testimony to prove that up.
Well, you have an amount in mind, is that correct?
I do not, Your Honor, because I have no way of knowing what his true income is based off of from what I was told by the child support officer and Ms. Perez. Ms. Perez has some information she would like to provide as well through her testimony.
Do we know how much Ms. Perez is asking for?
Ms. Perez, I don't know. I haven't had an opportunity to talk to her about any of this prior to coming to the hearing.
Ms. Perez, do you have an amount in mind that you're asking for the increase in child support?
To be honest, I don't, because I just want something to be fair me knowing everything and all the proof that I have, I just want it to be just something that's a good amount of money to help me help with my son, obviously.
All right, so do you think he's more than $60,000 a year?
For a fact, I know he's making more than $60,000 a year. Yes, sir.
All right. All right, excuse my interruption. Go ahead, Ms. Turner.
Thank you, Your Honor. So outside of the mortgage that you have, Mr. Alvarez, do you have other children that you provide care for that live in the home, financial support for?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
How many other children?
They live in my home, my daughter, just one, and I do have another one that does not live with me that I paid for.
Are you court ordered to provide financial support for the child that does not live in your home?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm actually court ordered to provide child support for both childs, even the one that lives with in my home.
Okay. Now, outside of your mortgage, do you have any other expenses that are associated with your home, like utility bills, water bills, that type of stuff?
Standard utility bills, yes, ma'am.
Okay. About how much do you pay in electricity each month?
About $100.
Is this a 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom home?
It's I'm sorry,
How many rooms are in the home?
4 bedrooms.
4 bedrooms, and your electricity bill is $100 a month.
Yes, ma'am, that is correct. I run my house pretty hot, pretty warm. I try to save as much money as I can.
Oh, you're doing good. What about your water bill?
I think of last time it was like 40, $50. It's 45 and change.
$45 a month. All right, no further questions for this witness right now, Your Honor. Subject
All
to.
right, Ms. Pettis, do you have any questions for Mr. Neary? Ms. Pettis? I'm sorry, Ms. Alvarez?
No, that's me.
I'm sorry, Ms. Pettis, do you have any questions for Mr. Alvarez?
Yes, sir, I do.
I'm sorry, I got the names turned around. All right, go
It's
ahead.
almost the same.
Ask the question.
Yes, I have a question for him. He states that he only has one vehicle, which
No,
is.
you're talking to him. Ma'am. You're talking to him.
Okay.
Okay. Go
Sorry.
ahead.
So, Nettie, your statement is saying that you only had the one vehicle, that you only have that one vehicle, right? Well, we both know you have more than just that one vehicle. You
Wait a
know
minute,
you
ma'am.
bought.
Wait a minute, ma'am. Miss,
Okay.
that's not a question. You have an opportunity to ask a question. Okay?
Uh-huh.
What is the question?
My question to him is, why is he only saying he has the one vehicle?
Why are you only saying you have the one vehicle, Mr. Alvarez?
Because as it is the only vehicle that I have, sir.
Okay.
The question, Ms. Pettis?
Yes, sir. I have no further questions.
All right. Ms. Turner?
This time the state would like to call Ms. Perez to the stand. Ms. Perez, to your knowledge, is Mr. Alvarez currently employed?
Yes, ma'am.
And what type of work does he do?
He owns a company, the Aztec Industry. He's an engineer.
Okay, and how long has he been an engineer?
He has probably been in it, like the way he stated, about 6 or 7 years.
6 or 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
And since he's been an engineer, have you guys ever lived together?
No, ma'am.
Okay. And during those 6 or 7 years that he's been an engineer, have you been privy to the amount of income that he typically brings in a month? Or
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
during the 6 or 7 years that Mr. Alvarez has been an engineer, have you ever been privy to any of his income information? Made privy to, or do you have any knowledge His income. Have you ever had any knowledge of what his income was during these 6 or 7 years as an engineer?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Do you have an estimate about how much you think he makes each year? Or each
Well,
month?
I know that I can sum it up. He probably makes more than 100 grand a month. I'm pretty sure.
100 grand a month?
I mean, a year. He has to be making a little bit more than what he's stating, and I know he's making at least 100 and something.
Okay. And how do you know that?
For the simple fact is that his family tells me about his business. My son knows about his business, has been to his office, has seen plenty of information. The information that I provided to you guys with him owning the company, the home that he lives in, the vehicles that he has. And if you're able to, rent out Lamborghinis and fly to New York and fly here and fly there, there's no possible way for you to only be living off of $3,000 a month and being able to live a lavish life.
Okay. So you stated that the vehicles that he has, what other vehicles does Mr. Alvarez own?
He has a black Range Rover that he just bought not too long ago, and he has a white Audi and the pickup truck that he's talking about, the Dodge Ram. Those are the 3 vehicles that he has, and I provided you guys with the pictures of them.
Okay.
I just wasn't able to get the picture of the Range Rover because the pickup truck was blocking it.
Okay. And you said he bought the Range Rover last year?
He probably had it for a while, probably like about a year or 2.
Okay. What about the Audi? Do you know when that was purchased?
The Audi was probably purchased like maybe a year ago.
Okay. All right. And so you stated that Mr. Alvarez actually owns this company. What's the name of that company that he owns?
Aztec Industries.
Okay. And did you bring any information that suggests proof of what you're alleging today, that he owns that company? Did you bring any proof of that today?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. All the pictures that I sent to you guys through email, those are all the pictures with his business card, with him being the president and the CEO, just all the information I sent.
Okay. And are you wanting to ask the court to examine these exhibits that you brought today or that you provided today?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Mr. Alvarez, have you had an opportunity to view the exhibits? Mr. Alvarez?
I have not. I'm sorry about that. I have not reviewed them.
Do you have any objection to the court viewing the exhibits or that she's
No,
provided?
I have no objection to anything. I mean,
Okay,
I'm
Ms.
not sure what you provided, but I'm not objecting to the review.
Okay, Ms. Perez, you'll have to basically state you're asking the court to examine the exhibits marked as respondents, exhibit letter A and letter B.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, hold on a minute. Let me take a look. Letter A. This is Neri Alvarez to Charles and 2 more. New field operations manager. Introducing Edgar Garcia as the field operations manager, right?
Yes, sir. And
I believe there's another one, Your Honor, an article or a plaque that is a write-up on Aztec Industries and states in the second paragraph that Neri Alvarez wanted a name for his new fabrication company in 2012. He thought Aztec Industries summed it up well.
Have you, I would assume you've seen that article, Mr. Alvarez?
That is the article. I have seen the article, but it isn't misrepresenting our company.
Right.
Well, Your Honor, I just like to state for the record, it's actually an article, but it's listed on a plaque. And it says it's featured in Construction News, January 2019. And it has Aztec Industries Incorporated at the bottom, so.
All right. I see that that's on a plaque. I see it.
Yes. Which
All
I
right.
would
I'm
have
sorry.
to assume was awarded to Mr.
All right, State's Exhibit A and State's Exhibit B is, and State's Exhibit B, is that all of these, sheets? It shows he's the senior project director, and it shows he's the project engineer / manager.
Yes, I believe those were part of Ms. Perez exhibits that she wanted the
All
court
right.
to
Is
examine.
that what you are, Mr. Alvarez, project engineer / manager?
Yes, sir. I represent Aztec Industries as whatever they need me. I can be a CEO, I can be project engineer. I am paid to represent Aztec Industries in a professional level.
All right.
And so, Ms. Perez, is it your belief that Mr. Alvarez is not being truthful here today with this court in regards to what his income is?
Yes, ma'am. And I wanted to let the judge know the paper that he read where it's introducing Mr. Edgar Garcia. Edgar Garcia is my uncle. He was one of Mr. Neri Alvarez's employees.
And when did your uncle work there?
He worked with him the beginning of, I think, maybe, he was with him for a while, probably about a year or so, maybe a little bit. I know it was like last year, and he just recently stopped working with him.
Okay. And so when your uncle was working there, how much was he making?
He was making $1,800 every 2 weeks.
And who paid him?
Mr. Alvarez.
So your uncle reported to Mr. Alvarez as his boss. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And the name listed on your uncle's, from what you can recall, his checks or whatever it was from Aztec Industries under Mr. Alvarez. Is that also correct?
Yes, ma'am. I was trying to get the documents from him, but he's at work, so I wasn't able to provide you with the information.
Okay. Now, you both have been told what the arrearage amount for this case was based off of the last day of the last month, which was August 31st of 2020. Is that correct?
Yes.
So that's an agreed amount?
No, sir.
It's not, Your Honor. I'm sorry.
All
I
right.
said, but I was only really directing that to Ms. Perez. I'm sorry. So, Ms. Perez, are you in agreement, or is it your content or your belief that that judgment should be confirmed at that amount, which is $2,461.61?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, was there ever a period of time where Mr. Alvarez had your child or you two's child in his possession based off of your own voluntary relinquishment?
No.
So the child has never spent any excess time outside of the possession and access order with Mr. Alvarez. Is that also correct?
He did spend some time with him, but it was not consented by me.
It was not what?
It wasn't consented by me. Like, I didn't agree to what Mr. Alvarez did.
Okay, so what do you mean by that? How did he obtain the child?
So it was around Christmas break when it was Mr. Alvarez's time to have him, because we alternate every other Christmas. So it was his time to get him. My son was acting up and being, just not acting right. And Mr. Alvarez took it upon himself to check my son out of school, which the school informed me and contacted me. And I told them I didn't want him to be, withdrawn from the school. Mr. Alvarez was, didn't care what I said or nothing. So he decided to go enroll him into a different school, which is closer to his home. And since I didn't have the way to take my son to that school where he placed him in, it was, I had no choice but to have my son there. Even though my son was there, I was still providing him with the money and giving him what he needed. His clothes, his shoes, everything was from this home. The only thing that Mr. Alvarez did while my son was there was just feed him because he lived there and provided him with a home, and that was it. When it came to the money, it was, oh, your mother, gets child support, let your mother pay everything. So I was still doing the money situation. That was still what I was providing, even though my son was over there.
Did you ever ask Mr. Alvarez to bring the child back to your home?
Yes.
And what was his response?
He just basically said he was going to handle it and take care of him. And I was not going to go back and forth. Mr. Alvarez is not a type of person that you could have a conversation with, because everything just turns into an argument. And me, I don't want to argue. I do not want to argue. And I didn't want to be taking my son from one school to another, back and forth, back and forth.
Okay. No further questions for this witness. I'll pass the witness.
Have any questions for her, Mr. Alvarez?
Yes, sir, I do.
All right.
Why
ahead.
is it that at any time between January to June, when I had Julian, you chose not to keep him? You did pick him up every weekend, almost every weekend, and you still brought him back to me or allowed me to pick him up during the week. Why is it that you decided not to keep him if you were so against the issue of him coming to school over here?
Because I stated it was impossible, and I didn't want to have him go transfer to the school you already transferred them all the way back to the school. It was already the second semester. There was no point for me to be like, hey, you know what? Let me mess up my son's education. He's already in that school. Let him finish the rest of the year. And what happened? Once he was done with the rest of the year, Julian came back to me, and Julian has been with me since that has happened. So to me, that's the whole situation why I didn't fight you. I didn't want to fight you. I'm not going to fight you over putting him here and putting him there. I'm not going to do that. So I'm going to do what's best for my son, let him finish the rest of the school year, and then that's it.
Second question. Once the semester was over, like you stated, why did you not take it upon yourself to unenroll him from the school that I had registered him in and enrolled him in a school which was zoned to your district?
Okay, so the school to my district, right? That is not a school for him. I knew it was a bad crowd. I knew I didn't want him involved in certain situations. So I looked at it as like, hey, you know what? This school, this district is a good district for him, right? So I left him in there. If it's going to give my son a good opportunity and give him a good education, why wouldn't I not do that? So, but you handled it very incorrectly. What did you do? You said you want nothing to do with him. You stopped letting him use your address. So what did we have to do? We had to use your dad's address, which is his grandparents' address. And now you don't have nothing to do with his school education.
Third question is, did you or did you not drop him off to me and told me that I was responsible for taking him to school? And while he was enrolled at that school that you claimed yourself is not a good school.
Okay. So the reason why you were taking him to school was because the school is near your home. It's less than maybe 5 minutes away from your home. From my home to that school, it would take me 30 minutes. I have to get up and be at the medical center, right? Because I work in the medical center. I have to be there at 6 o'clock. Julian school does not open till 7. How am I going to have my child waking up at 5 o'clock, dropping him off in front of the school and leaving him there, and then drive all the way to the medical center? That's impossible. I'm not going to do that to him. I'm not going to do that to him. So if I know, hey, you know what? His father lives 5 minutes away from the school. Why am I going to drag him out? And it's like, that's not what I'm going to do. I'm not going to do that.
That was not the question. The question was,
I'm sorry, hold on a second. Ms. Pettis, you have to be at work at what time?
I have to be at work at 6.
At 6.
Yes, sir.
So if the child is with you, how does he get to school? You don't drop him?
No, my brother takes him.
Okay.
Yeah, I went ahead and I kind of coordinated everything. Once my son came back, my family's been helping me with him, picking him up from school.
All right.
The question was actually, Your Honor,
Go ahead.
you brought him to me and dropped him off, told me that you were having issues with him at school, and that you wanted me to take him to school and take care of him because he did not want to listen to you. Is that correct?
No. The issue
Okay.
was,
My question is, if that's not correct, can you please tell me what the reason it was for you dropping him off and telling me that he was having issues at school for me to take care of him taking him to school?
I just said it. You withdrew him from school. So it was impossible for me to drive from here to your side, to drive back, to go downtown. Like, that was not possible. And if I told you to take care of him, yeah, I'm going to tell you that's my son. Hey, you know what? He's with you. Take care of him. Not saying, hey, you know what? I don't want to deal with him. Take care of him. It's your responsibility. That's not what I did. I was
That is
telling
not the
you,
question.
hey.
The question was prior
Okay,
to
listen
me.
to the question, ma'am.
The question was prior to me withdraw him from the school that you just claimed that was a bad school. You dropped him off to me and you said, here's your son. He's having issues at school. You take care of him. Take him to school from now on. Which, like you stated, I want to know if that is what you did or did you not do that?
No.
Okay.
When I dropped him
What
off, it
did
was
you
during,
do?
when I dropped him off, it was during Christmas break, when it was supposed to be your time with him, Christmas break. That's when I dropped him off to you.
My follow-up question is, if it was during Christmas break, why was I able to walk him over to school the day you dropped him off to me, withdraw him from school, and raise him in school that same day?
He was still, when I dropped him off, he was still going that way, right? It was Christmas break, right? Then when he returned back, he was being a particular way. I said, hey, you know what? You could talk to him, right? You could talk to him. That was me telling you, hey, I need you to help me as a father. I need you to help me as a parent. That wasn't to give you the whole decision of let me withdraw him, let me keep him, let me do this. That's not what you didn't even talk to me about that. So for me answering your question, yeah, I did drop him off to you and I did tell you, hey, help me out with him. He's not listening, help me out. We're supposed to be co-parenting, communicating. So yeah, I'm going to talk to you. Hey, he's not listening. Can you just take him to school just this week? And then that's it. I told you this week, your office is 5 minutes away from his school where he was going, 5 minutes away. And you couldn't do that. So what did you do? You withdrew him. And then it turned into this whole big old fiasco.
Did he have clothes with him that day you dropped him off to me?
Objection. Relevance.
Overruled. They're getting into all sorts of stuff. Well, ma'am, I don't understand why you'd want him to go back to the school that you said was not a good place for him to be.
The school that I'm speaking about is we have moved and it was a whole different school from what he was going to. That's why he's saying, why didn't you withdraw him from that school and put him where your district? Because the school that is considered to my district was not, I didn't think it was going to be a good fit for him. So that's why I left him over there.
All right. Any other
Your Honor,
questions?
if I may, can I make a statement? Yes,
No,
I do have one
you'll
more
be,
question.
no. You'll be able to make a statement when everybody's already testified, okay? I'll let you make a statement.
Yes. Well, I have another question for her.
Go ahead.
Ms. Perez, would you say that the school that he was supposed to be zoned and that I withdrew him from, it's a good school?
I can say yes, because the majority of my family graduated from that school. So yes.
Was he zoned to that school from the residence that you were living in?
No.
Objection. Relevance.
Ooh, they're getting into all sorts of stuff, and it's just a matter of the credibility of the witnesses at this time, Ms. Turner.
Okay.
Okay. But okay. You have another question, Mr. Alvarez?
No, sir. That is all my questions.
All right. Ms. Turner, you have any other witnesses?
No other witnesses, but I would like to recall Ms. Perez and then Mr. Alvarez briefly.
All right.
The state recalls Ms. Perez. Ms. Perez, are you asking this court to base the child support based off of the brief testimony that you gave in regards to Mr. Alvarez making at least $100,000 a year? Are you asking the court to consider that amount in regards to the guideline amount, the child support amount?
I just want it to be just something that I know he's supposed to pay. Like, I don't know how to answer that question.
Well, in order for the court to make that decision, there has to be some testimony in regards to what his actual income is. So is it your belief that he, in fact, is making $100,000 a year at least?
Yes, ma'am.
And are you asking the court to consider that in regards to calculating the child support amount?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, no further questions for this witness. I'll pass the witness.
Mr. Alvarez, you have any questions again?
Yes. What proof do you have that I make that much?
The proof indicating that I have a relative that used to work with you. Your son knows information about you, your whole way of doing things, your companies that you advertise, your social media that you do, stating, hey, you know what, I'm gonna go here, I'm gonna go there. Like,
Ms.
how
Perez,
you
Ms.
do.
Perez, do you have any, Ms. Perez, do you have any proof? Is what he asked. Not what you think. Do you have any proof?
The proof of the amount of money that he's making, no, I don't have the proof, the exact amount that he makes.
All right, that's what he asked. That's what he asked. Okay, you need to just answer the question that he asked. Have
No
another,
further questions, Your Honor.
all right, Ms. Turner, you wanted to call Mr. Alvarez?
Yes. Mr. Alvarez, did the child live with you or stay with you in excess of your standard possession and access time period at any time?
Yes, ma'am.
And what months or days or weeks did that take?
He stayed with me starting January of 2019 all the way to June of 2019, which was a full semester of classes. The June month was very short, was only I think a couple of weeks that it goes into for a full semester of classes.
Okay. And was that because Ms. Perez dropped the child off at your home and told you to keep the child? Or how did you?
Yes, ma'am. That is what my understanding was.
Okay, I'm gonna ask you that question again. Not what your understanding was. Did she specifically ask you to keep the child in your home for those amount of months?
She asked me to keep the child. She did not specify the amount of months. She did ask me to keep the child. He did bring clothes with him to stay with me.
Okay, so you did not unenroll him in the school that he was in prior to on your own. Is that your testimony?
That is correct. Prior to her dropping him off, I did not unenroll him.
Okay. So, Mr. Alvarez, would it surprise you to know that someone in your position and in your field, based off of the Bureau of Labor Statistics, typically brings in an average of $171,000 a year?
Yes, it would surprise me.
Okay. And so out of all of these engineering firms available here in Texas, you've never thought to look outside of just doing freelance work?
No, it gives me a opportunity to spend time with my family, which I value much more than any amount of money.
Okay. That's a good thing, but you still have to be able to take care of the bills. Is that correct?
That is correct, which I am doing, ma'am.
So how were you able to pay Ms. Perez's uncle
I
$1,800?
did not pay Ms. Perez's uncle. That is misleading information that she stated.
So he's never worked for you?
Hello?
Yes, I'm here.
All right. Did he
So
ever
he's-
work for you, sir?
No, he did not work for me. He worked for Aztec Industries.
Any other questions, Ms. Turner?
No, Your Honor.
All right, Ms. Pettis, any other questions for Mr. Alvarez?
Yes. Why do you say my uncle didn't work for you?
Because he did not work for me.
So the checks and the information he was able to provide, how does that not state he didn't work for you?
Does it have my name on it?
No further questions, Your Honor.
All right. Anything further you want to say, Ms. Pettis?
No, sir.
Anything further you want to say, Mr. Alvarez?
No, sir.
Anything further, Ms. Turner?
Your Honor, the state would ask that the court take judicial notice of the Bureau of Labor Statistics, which states that a structural engineer in Houston, Texas, brings in on average $171,000 a year. If this court is unable to make a finding in regards to what the actual income is for Mr. Alvarez at this time, the state would ask that in the alternative that the court would grant a reset based off of the information that Mr. Alvarez himself testified to earlier, stating that he could possibly file his taxes, or if need be, he could file them within the next couple of days, in order that Mr. Alvarez bring in his income tax returns for 2019 and 2018, so that the court can have a full picture of what his actual earning potential is, and perhaps give time for other witnesses who may have pertinent information to this case to appear as well.
All right, the only proof I have of what he makes is what he says he makes, plus his 1099.
So the state would ask
Your
for
Honor.
Which I
one
was-
additional reset so that Mr. Alvarez could file his taxes.
Runs about to, no, there will not be a reset. No, no, I denied that request. I'm making a decision today.
Okay.
And under the guidelines, I think it's 16%. Is that correct, Ms. Turner?
Yes, for 2 other children.
Yes. All right, so the court orders the father to pay child support in the amount of $778 a month beginning October 1st, 2020. The child support arrears judgment awarded in the amount of $0. All other stipulations are approved.
Thank you, Your Honor. The gross amount that you had, Your Honor, for the child support, should I just walk it back?
$60,000, $5,000 a month.
Okay. Thank you, Your Honor. May we be excused?
Yes, if I have miscalculated that, Ms. Turner, we'll reopen the court. But I'm basing it on $60,000 a year.
Oh, one quick question, Your Honor. You said the retro amount. This isn't for retro. This is just the judgment amount. So,
I'm sorry, not retro, arrearage judgment, $0.
okay, so he's getting a credit, which will zero it out to
Exactly.
zero it out. Okay. All right.
Okay.
And both of those will begin, I'm sorry, October 1st of 2020.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
May we be excused?
Yes.
Thank you.
Ms. Turner, am I able to leave the conversation, the meeting?
Yeah, you can, but I need to send you the order, so that